With the season now being past the midway point for most teams, there's been an abundance of trade chatter throughout the hockey world. Now, we have gone over quite a few possible destinations that, for the most part, make sense for players to go to. But in this video, we're going to have a little fun by going over a few players whose reported possible destinations are pretty shocking to say the least. And with that, here are some questionable fits for these 4 NHL players. Yes, Evander Kane. One guy who just gives everyone who talks hockey an endless supply of headlines to touch on. Kane, who has been arguably the most controversial character we've seen in recent times in the league, is looking to make a return to NHL hockey. Now, at the time that this video is being made, all that we know is that Kane is a UFA who is still under investigation. Meaning, all we know at this time is that Kane is waiting for the conclusion from the league on if they're going to suspend him or not, after the various allegations were made by the San Jose organization. So without going too much into it, according to Elliotte Friedman, the investigation should be wrapping up sometime this week. Despite his off-ice baggage that he might be bringing to a locker room, surprisingly, there have been quite a few teams interested in Kane's services. The 2 Floridian teams, for instance, the Edmonton Oilers and the Maple Leafs for a short time were among them. But one team that recently has become a front-runner, interestingly, for the forward is the Washington Capitals. Friedman also reported that the Capitals have been considering signing Kane, and while nothing is official, they have been looking to Kane as an option as they prepare to make another deep postseason run. While Kane could give Washington an extra boost within its top 6, many Washington fans, I'm sure, are apprehensive while entertaining the idea. Even though the Caps are in the mix, according to Friedman, Edmonton is still the #1 frontrunner in the Evander Kane sweepstakes. Speaking of Edmonton, besides their lack of 5-on-5 scoring, another issue that has plagued the Oil is goaltending. Thus far, Oilers GM Ken Holland has taken a look at various netminders. According to Elliotte Friedman, he's looked at a slew of options, including Alex Georgiev, Ville Husso, Anton Khudobin, Braden Holtby, Jonas Korpisalo, Vinik Vanacek, Semyon Varlamov, and most recently, Martin Jones. Now, respectfully, out of all possible netminders on this list, the Oilers, who need a solid starter who can be heavily relied upon, is Martin Jones really the best option? Jones, who is currently on a 1-year, $2 million deal with the Flyers, has been seeking redemption after being allowed to walk in free agency from San Jose. Currently, out of goalies that have played in 15 games or more, Jones has the 3rd worst goals against average league-wide with a 3.56 and the 10th worst save percentage with a .901. This is definitely not a knock on Jones as a person at all, but looking at Edmonton's situation from a logical standpoint, Martin Jones isn't going to be the answer to solve their goaltending woes. Speaking of teams in need of a netminder, well, the Pittsburgh Penguins are another team in search of attendee. Coming into the season, as far as the crease was concerned, for the Pens, things were uncertain to say the least. Following a postseason performance that he'd most likely rather forget, Tristan Jarry entered the 2021-22 campaign with a lot to prove. Jarry, since, has risen to the occasion, as he's currently on pace for his best career season yet, with a .926 save percentage and a 2.12 goals against average. However, his main backup last season hasn't had the same luck with bouncing back. Casey DeSmith, who has been pulled on multiple occasions this season, is currently sporting a .886 save percentage and a 3.57 goals against average. Prior to his injury, Louis Domingue was beginning to look like the reliable backup option that coach Mike Sullivan has been looking for. With Domingue injured, however, and DeSmith struggling, GM Ron Hextall has been reportedly looking at outside options for a serviceable backup. Among the frontrunners, according to Pittsburgh Now's Dan Kagurski, for the Pens are Jonas Johansson, Anton Forsberg, Garrett Sparks, and Craig Anderson. Reason being is that Pittsburgh is close to the cap and needs to find a solution that's under the $1 million threshold. While it may seem puzzling to even be talking about Anderson, considering he's injured, the goaltender, according to CBS Sports, is aiming to begin skating during the NHL All-Star break, which isn't that far away. Even though his numbers do look good for this season so far, in my opinion, the sample size is still too small. After 6 games played, Anderson currently has a .921 save percentage and a 2.50 goals against average. But considering his age, and that he's already battled injuries this season as well, Pittsburgh would want to be careful not to end up in a Mike Smith type of situation, considering Anderson is 40 years old. Currently, the most sought-after defenseman on the trade market, Jaycob Chycryn has drawn the interest of several teams so far this season. Toronto has been openly looking to upgrade, specifically on defense, before approaching the postseason. Even though there are pending UFA options such as John Klingberg, Rasmus Ristolainen, and Josh Manson, amongst others, according to TSN's Chris Johnson, the Leafs would rather acquire a player with a bit of term left versus gaining a rental. And according to Darren Drager, Dubas and company have already inquired about the defenseman's services. Even though it would be a move that would help the team to some capacity, as close as a team is already to the cap, would it be smart to take such a gamble? TSN's Jeff Merrick has reported that Arizona is going to be holding firm to their asking price on Chycryn, which is currently a young player, a prospect, and a first-round pick. The only way to really make Chycryn's $4.6 million cap hit possible would be sending a sizable contract out and also giving up a prospect, which are few and far between for Toronto. Dubas does still have his 2022 first-round pick to offer, but in my opinion, considering that Chycryn currently only has 8 points in 30 games played, which is a far cry from, seasons prior for him, this could be a risk that the Leafs don't need to take considering their cap situation and limited prospect pool.